I just so nearly said good morning then. Hey everyone, we are live. This is Lily. I'm Meg and I'm here to talk all things body image and energy. I'm just going to give it a couple of minutes. I did have a few little technical difficulties. I can't really blame it on her, but she did have something to do with it. So yeah, just give me a couple of moments. You might want to, thank you. You might want to, I don't know if you want to invite any friends on that you may know that may need this conversation. Feel free to tag them below. When you jump on, just say hi so I know you're here. And we might chat for about 20 or 30 minutes or so. But what I really want to invite in is any questions that you may have. You know, I have got a few already from a friend of mine, and I have actually got a few come through today in stuff that I will do my best to cover from my own experiences. So before I start, of course, I'm not a psychologist, not any form of doctor, but I have had very much a personal experience. It was actually my gift. And that might be hard to hear for some people, especially family, that was my eating disorders, that has now brought me to this point today to be able to talk and to share light on this subject that is becoming more and more increasing as we sort of move through, especially at this time at the moment with all COVID stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on, and this is why this has been bubbling up in me for a while to talk about this. So I'll get started in about a minute or so. You might want to grab yourself a cushion or something like that as well, just to take a seat on. We might even finish in a meditation, something like that as well, just to just to lean into how it feels to be in our bodies in a state of love and compassion and kindness. And even if it is for just that, you know, short meditation at the end, I invite you to just really feel what that feels like. So I will be referencing today out of two books. This, by far, this book here, The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, has been one of the most profound reads I've ever read. I've read a lot of books. Stop. I've got the moisturizer on and she loves it. And it has just been the most incredible, incredible book. There are so many teachings in that, which I highly, highly recommend, on understanding our thought patterns. The second book, before I go into it, is here, A New Earth, that was gifted to me recently by Carol, a good friend of mine. And I opened this up the other day to a page. I haven't read it yet. And I just want to share this page because it makes so much sense. So the third thing that I want to say before I get started is I will be very openly talking about eating disorders, anorexia, bulimia, body dysmorphia, clean eating disorder where we have an addiction to clean food and eating, you know, raw foods or whatever it might be, but we get obsessed. Speaking very openly about maybe fitness competitions and how that affects the view on, that's my water, not yours, how that affects the view on ourselves. So there's going to be a few topics here that we will get a little bit raw on, and if you're not up for that, that's totally fine. I'm not offended. Not everybody likes what you have to say, and I'm totally cool with that. I'm not here to be liked. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to, as I said, share what I call my gift, which was my eating disorders. Over 30 years of beating myself up in a state of self-sabotage, low self-worth, all of that kind of stuff. So we might get started. So I'm just gonna turn this off. Hold on 2 seconds. Cool. So if you're jumping on here and you don't know me, as I said, I'm sharing from my own experiences, and this is my nothing's right or wrong. You know, none of us know enough to be right. And I'm just sharing what I know in order to possibly help anybody else who may be suffering anything to do with the way they see themselves. So we are, of course, in a world, so this conversation, I want to stem out to teenagers as well. I work with a lot of teenagers at year 9 at a school in Maitland. And these girls teach me so much as well, because it reminds me of where I used to be. You know, when I was sort of 15 and 16, I started to suffer the physical effects, of course, of an eating disorder. But for me, this stemmed many, many, many years before that. And this is what I wanted to speak about and share, because it's really important we understand what happens with the brain. So for the last 4 years or so, hey, sorry. For the past 4 years or so, I've been really intrigued to understand the neuroscience between our thoughts and our behaviors and our addictions. Because when we can want to change, and we can want to change the way we think about our bodies and the way we think about ourselves and the way we look in the mirror and the way we talk to ourselves. But unless we understand why this is happening, then we're going to have a fuck all chance of changing it until we understand it. So very, very briefly, I must have been probably about 6 years old or so, I think, in the schoolyard, and got told by a fellow classmate at the time, you know, you're not pretty enough to be on our team. And at the time, being 6 years old, being told that, I was devastated. I was like, what? Because I thought, you know, as we do when we're kids, we operate in this real high vibration. All kids do, until we start to take on these beliefs about ourselves. So when I heard that, I was like, wow, so what do I need to do? I'm not, you know, I'm not good enough as I am. I'm not pretty enough. I need to be smarter. I need to be faster. I need to be skinnier, whatever. It stems from this. And I sort of went home with that belief and just went, you know what? Wow, you know, I'm obviously not good enough for that. And without actually dealing with that or knowing what to do with that at the time, of course we don't know, we're 6 years old, but it creates in our bodies what's called a samskara. And I'm not going to talk about this in yogic philosophy. I want to talk about this science-backed, but also just in terms where we all understand it. And they say a samskara is an impression. So I had created an impression around that moment. Now, if I had not worried about that and let that impression just move through me and just go, you know what, she's just being silly, then I wouldn't have created what's called an attachment to that, okay? So when we attach to something, we create this moment, we keep thinking about it. It creates this train of thoughts, right? And I'm sure we've all been there. And we start to come back to that, and everything else that's going on around us, we start to not really pay attention. We become so fixated on these thoughts that we forget to be present. Now, leaving that story just there for the moment, I want to read, I think, a passage out of this book that explains a little bit about thoughts and energy. Michael Singer says, when we study the energy outside and we give great value to our energy resources, we're actually, in the Western world, we ignore and we don't study the energy within enough. So people go about their lives thinking, feeling, acting without the understanding of what makes these activities take place. The truth is, every movement of your body, every emotion you have, and every thought that passes through your mind is an expenditure of energy. Just as everything that happens outside in the physical world requires energy, we need energy to drive a car, to turn a light on, to run power, whatever it might be, to play music. Everything that happens inside requires an expenditure of energy. So, talking on the thoughts, for example, if you concentrate on a thought and another thought interferes, you'll have to assert an opposing force to fight the interfering thought, okay? That requires energy, and it can freaking wear you out. Likewise, if you have a thought that you're trying to hold on to in your mind, but it keeps drifting off, you have to willfully concentrate to bring it back. I'm just going to pause there. So for many years, from the age of 6 right into my early 30s, this thought just kept going around and around and around in my head. So the stemming thought, that base experience, because it was an experience, it wasn't anything to do with me, but I made it to do with me. I made it personal. I just kept going around in circles, and that's called a samskara, right? So when we do this, we're actually sending more energy to the thought in order to hold it in a given place, right? You also assert energy to deal with your emotions. If you have an emotion you don't like and it's interfering with what you're doing, you just push it aside. So I'm going to pause there. So from that age, I then started to become very competitive. I started to people please. I started to just do what I could to be better. Everything was, I need to be better, I need to be faster, I need to be liked, I need to perform this, I need to get A's in my passport, no, what's it called? You know what I mean, from school, it's been a while since I've been to school. Report card, right, so that I could impress my dad, because I always had this, again, this thought and impression that I was never enough for my dad. I always felt that he wanted better from me. But that wasn't anything to do with my father. That was to do with my own creation around that experience that I could have let flow through me. Okay? So basically I had let that thought create a blockage in my system. And from that I strived and, as I said before, moved into perfection and this constant need for more. Cool. So when I got to 15 and 16, which is the age of these girls that I'm teaching at the moment, beautiful girls at Hannah Grammar, I had this manifestation of stuck energy of not feeling enough, and my way out at that point, I remember quite clearly here, and as I said, I am going to speak about a few things that may trigger, but it also needs to be spoken about because there's a lot of it going on around the moment, especially in Newcastle. Is I had two choices with myself. I got to myself to such a low point, okay? So my energy was so blocked, I was very, very depleted. When our energy is blocked, and I'm going to talk about this on a separate note, when our energy is blocked, what is actually happening is we are not allowing the water to flow through, okay? So if you visualize sort of like a pool of water, a stream, let's go a stream, I think that's where I'm going with that. And in this stream, we might have like rocks and twigs and leaves and stuff. So say there's just been a storm and there's a lot of interference. The water has to find a way. Water finds flow all the time and it has to find a way through. But if there is interference, such as rocks and twigs and sticks and whatever, it's going to go around and it's going to create little whirlpools and it's going to create a pretty wavy and like rocky ride. It's still going to go through, but it's going to take a lot of energy to do that. The same goes in our bodies, okay? So energy travels upwards in our bodies, and if we are creating these blocks, I'm not going to go into the chakras tonight, but what actually happens is we are manifesting these blocks in and around our chakra system, which is our energy system. We have 7 main chakras in our body that move from our base of our spine to the crown of our head. And this is also, as I said, associated with our spine, everything like that. So we feel things that go on. So I had spent years and years and years from the age of like 5 or 6 creating this blockage around not enough. So when I got to 15 and 16, I was depleted. I was tired. I'd actually got glandular fever, I believe. And my mum, I think it was that, my mum will back me on that because I was a swimmer, I was a competitive swimmer. And I couldn't do good enough. I was constantly comparing myself, constantly pissed off if I didn't win, all that jazz. And if you've got teenagers, or you might have been there yourself, give me a little shout out if you have, for this constant comparison. So it got to that point and I'd had enough. I had written letters on it, my mum still got them, I believe, I don't, but my mum still has them. And I had 2 choices, and the choices were 1, commit suicide, 2, eating disorder. I'm going to stop eating. So I chose the second. But I was at a point where I was that low, I didn't give a fuck where I was. I honestly didn't. I wanted out because my energy was that depleted. I had no energy left because I had spent years and years and years manifesting, going over this thought in my head of you're not enough. And the more you tell yourself something, the more you start to believe it, right? The words we speak become the house we live in, said Rumi. And that's what happened. And this is what I'm seeing so much of in like teenagers and not touching on it, but recently in Newcastle there has just been these the teenagers that have got to that point and not found a way out, and it shouldn't happen, right? This is why I'm talking tonight, because I'm so passionate about this. Eating disorders are, terrible things to have, to hold on to. They can stick with you. I do not believe, as opposed to what I was told, and I know many people with eating disorders are told, you will have an eating disorder for the rest of your life. I do not believe that, because I have moved out of it, and this is why I speak about this stuff, because if I can move out of it, you can too. So I got to that point, I'd chosen my eating disorder at 15 or 16, and pretty much immediately I got down to about 36 kilos. And I was very, very ill, very, very sick, and I didn't want to live, I just wanted to starve myself. But what I was constantly doing was trying to strive for perfection, that's what it was. But I was also addicted to this feeling, right, of not feeling enough and in my own pity party. So we get addicted. I was actually talking to a client today about these addictions of feeling shitty, because we're there so often and we play into this pity party. We get addicted. We get a dopamine hit every time we're there. So when we start to try and move out of that, we face resistance, and it's really, really hard. That's why we keep coming back to that same story of, I have this, or whatever it might be, and we keep going around and round and round in these cycles. So that continued, obviously with bulimia, very much so in my 20s, but this is sort of important to touch on too. I got to the point, obviously, with this energy, I was trying to amp up my energy or feel good with external things, okay? So that was people, that was drugs, that was smoking, that was sex, that was alcohol, that was parties. I was trying to look outside of me to find something to boost inside of me. I didn't know how to look into myself, okay? And that continued until my late 20s, and this is why I'm just so passionate, because I don't want to see teenagers go through what I did. And many people do for so long. When we have this understanding of how we can listen to our heart and understand how that affects our thoughts, which I'm going to go into. We have been blessed this one life here right now. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And it's super, super important that we start to show up. So I'd done that until my early 30s. I got to my 30s, and then the anxiety and the depression and the lack of concentration kicked in, and this was really big. So because I kept going around in circles and my mind was so focused on the not enough thought, by the time I was 30, I was just not enough for anything. I couldn't even take in information at one time. I couldn't even read the page of a book. I would forget things. I was absolutely distant. I was like scared, even socially. Like I just had no belief in myself whatsoever. I was spending like no tomorrow with money I didn't have to try and fill a void that needed to come from myself. And that was pretty much in my early 30s, right? And the rest of the story is irrelevant. But what is relevant is, if I look back on that now, I look at my energy levels and I realize that I was trying to fill space all the time, okay? So I mentioned it before, I was looking outside of myself to try and boost myself from the inside out. I didn't know how to listen to my heart or give myself what I needed. So I was constantly busy. I was constantly in a state of perfection. And I was constantly looking for people's approval. Now, on Instagram these days, and I guess Snapchat and TikTok and whatnot, I don't have those two. However, what I do see is these comments on a lot of the Instagram profiles, or a photo goes up and it's like we ask for validation, especially in the younger kids as well. And if you've got teenagers, or you're a teenager, maybe you can resonate with what I'm saying here, where there's all this, you're stunning, you're hot, you're freaking gorgeous, you're stunning, you're hot, you're so gorgeous. And there's like 100 comments. And we get another dopamine kick from that, and we start to post these photos and these videos or whatever it might be, to get that response from others, which feels like it boosts us up for a moment or so, but it's coming from external. That's never going to last, right? If we are constantly searching for approval from others, or if we are looking for someone or something to make us happy, we're like, I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when I lose this, or I'll be happy when I have that perfect husband or man. I'll be happy when I have that job. You're never going to be happy, right? If you are always searching, you're always going to be looking. And that is key. It has to come from within. So what is this within? How do we find that space? Because we have infinite energy, right? We have this constant flow. I spoke about that pool of water before, okay, where after a storm it gets really messy and it takes a long time for that water to flow through. So if we have a lot of these blockages, okay, these impressions, all right, so throughout our life, say, let's use my story for example. I have that story back when I was 6 about not being pretty enough, and then the constant, needing my dad's approval, like not feeling smart enough, or, there was also, I had sexual abuse when I was 9 years old. These things that I had pushed down, all right, I didn't want to feel them. So from that, I then went into my teenage years, and, there was stories or people had said something and I'd taken that on board. That is all stored energy. I hooked into it and I grabbed it and I made it personal, right? And that making it personal started to create rocks and sticks and leaves and blockages in my flow. And the energy that runs through us all the time, we're constantly moving, we are energy, gets blocked by these samskaras, right? And if we do not allow ourselves to feel them, right, which I didn't do for many years, I kept pushing away because I was numbing and I was running from them. All right, I would do everything in my power not to feel. So I was constantly, as I said, busy, shopping, drinking, taking drugs, whatever, to not feel what was actually going on, and wanting to come out and be presented and talked about and spoken about and heard and nurtured and softened, right? And that's really, really important. So these energy blocks come up and they present themselves later on in our lives as we get older. And that's going to deplete our energy. So when we get to adults, and teenagers are going to have, of course, more energy than us do, but we still have the same amount of this finite energy within us. But if we keep letting ourselves attach to these impressions, we're going to find a pretty blocked and unfluid flow. All right. Now, Michael Singer also, it wasn't in this book, it was in, whether it's Surrender, Experiment, one of his teachings. He says, imagine you're driving outside, okay, and you're going down a freeway and you're seeing cars and you're seeing street signs and you're seeing trees, like whatever you see outside to get to your destination, okay? But you get your destination, you don't take any of that in, right? So you get there and you don't remember what color cars are on the road or what number plates or whatever it might have been that was there. You just drove. And what happened? All of those things went through you, okay? Now, so he says if we have a samskara or a blockage, say we got dumped or rejected by a guy in our mid-20s, we just didn't hear from him and we thought it was all to do with us, and we'd been dating him for like a while or whatever, and he ran off with another girl or whatever, let's call it that. And he drove like a blue Honda, and you're driving on this road and you see a blue Honda, and immediately, because you haven't cleared out this blockage, right, your mind goes to this Honda and goes, oh, what if I'd said this differently? What if I'd gone about this a different way? What if I had done this? Or what if I didn't do this? And you start to get that thought again, the impression, and you start to go over that reel again and again and again in your head. So give me a thumbs up if you've been there. I have been there plenty of times. And this is because we haven't actually dealt with the stuff that's happened previously. Okay. Now, with that, it's these blockages are going to create a sense of low self-worth. Okay, so the more that we have less energy, okay, this is where I'm getting to with body image, and I wanted you to understand how things can get blocked in our system, because it's really, really important, because we need to have a good flow of chi or energy as such let's just call it that, into our bodies. We can call it Shakti also. And we need this good flow of energy so that we can be vibrant and feel well. If we are not feeling well and we are feeling down and low, what's going to happen is we are going to feel in our heart an emotion and a feeling. Oh, you know, I don't feel good today. I feel really tired. You know, I'm feeling really like self-conscious or whatever it might be. That feeling and emotion, right? Everything starts in our heart. Okay? It doesn't start here in the head. It starts in the heart. So in my, again, just easy to talk about myself as an example. When I was moving from, you know, that age of 15 to like 30, in my heart, I didn't feel good about myself. I looked at my body in the mirror and I was like, I hate what I see. I can't stand my thighs. I hate my belly. I don't want to be here. I want to fit into these jeans. I need to be skinny. I need to be muscly. I need to be taller. I need to be fitter. All of that stemmed from how I felt about myself. This is so important. Michael Singer also says that mind is a place the soul goes to hide from the heart. The mind is the place the soul goes to hide from the heart, because we don't want to feel what's going on here. So when we feel those feelings of lack, right, we don't invite it in. We don't sit with it. We try to push it away because it's uncomfortable. It doesn't feel good. And when we do that, what we then do is we then push it away and then we numb or we run from it, right? We don't allow ourselves to feel what's going on. And that then starts to create a vibration, okay? It's not our heart itself that creates, it's like our heart chakra, our energy, the energy around our heart. Creates a vibration that moves up. Remember, energy goes up and it sparks what's called a thought, okay? So when we have that thought, right, it's stemming from what's going on in here. So if we understand that the way we feel about ourselves and the way we feel about our bodies is what's going to change your thoughts, you then have complete power over that. And your teenagers, your daughters, whatever. If we can, this information blew my mind, you know, and it's taken me so many years, and I've been so passionate about studying the mind for this reason, to understand how we can actually watch our language and change this from the inside out, not just, you know, go, yep, cool, I don't like where I'm at, I'm going to change it. Nothing's going to change if nothing's going to change. You're going to go back to the old patterns and habits you've been practicing for 30 plus years. They are very, very ingrained in our head, in our mind, right? There's big clusters of repeated patterns, repeated actions, repeated words to ourselves, repeated thoughts about ourselves. So when we're faced with adversity, a change in our environment, uncertainty, which is what's going on out here, it's super uncertain times. The moment our button gets pushed, we are going to go back to the old basket of old thoughts. We're going to be like, oh, you feel shit again. That's it. And the more you do that, the more you deplete your energy. You're just allowing that samskara or that blockage to really stop your energy flow. Okay. And this is it. This is what this conversation is about. So if you are a woman, if you're a man out there, if you've got kids, right, that are constantly worried about food or how their body looks, what do? And this is key, right? I could talk forever on this stuff, but the thing is, we need to know what to do. And I've shared this quite a few times before, but I share this from a new perspective now. I'm going to read this. Again, sometimes these words can be a bit triggering, but again, we need to talk about it. We need to understand it. As I said, I opened the page up onto this book without even reading the book yet. But this is the page it fell on probably last week, and I've been wanting to share this for a while. Okay, so Eckhart Tolle, this is this need for more, right? This need for perfection, this need for looking better, this need for striving for a perfect body, right? The ego identifies with having, but its satisfaction in having is a relatively shallow and short-lived one. Concealed within it remains a deep-seated sense of dissatisfaction, of incompleteness, of not enough. I don't have enough yet. by which the ego really means I am not enough yet. As we have seen, having, the concept of ownership, is a fiction created by the ego to give itself solidity and permanency and make itself stand out, make itself special. Since we can't find ourselves through having, however, there is a more powerful drive underneath it that pertains to the structure of the ego, the need for more, which we would also call wanting and wishing, right? I wish I had that. I wish I looked like this. I wish my body was thinner. I wish I didn't have the thighs I had, blah, blah, blah. Whatever that is, we are wishing and wanting for more. No ego can last for long without the need for more. Therefore, wanting keeps the ego alive much more than having. The ego wants it more than ever just to have, and so the shallow satisfaction of having is always replaced by more wanting. This is the psychological need for more. That is to say, more things to identify with, right? We are not our bodies. We're not our hair. We're not our arms. We're not the clothes we wear. We're not the car we drive. We're not the job we have. We're not the person that we share a space with. We are the one that experiences that. We are the soul within, right? None of that owns us. We could lose it all tomorrow. He says it's an addictive need, not an authentic one. In some cases, the psychological need for more or the feeling of not enough is so characteristic of the ego, it becomes transferred to the physical level, so it turns into insatiable hunger. The sufferers of bulimia will often make themselves vomit so they can continue eating. Their mind is hungry, not their body. This eating disorder would become healed if the sufferers, instead of becoming identified with their mind, could get in touch with their body and so feel the true needs of the body rather than the pseudo needs of the egoic mind. Whoa, I love that. I love that. That was so me. And I know that it's also many others because we attach to a thought that stems from a vibration and emotion, a feeling in our heart. So what can we do? So whether it's for you or whether it's for your teenagers, be mindful of everything you do and who sees it, okay? Every single day you carry around energy with you, okay? The way you feel about yourself emanates out, all right? You walk past somebody who's having a freaking rad day and they are just like, you know, I'm absolutely loving today. And that's where we should be at every single day. You feel that and you want to be around that person, right? You know, and I see it so often as well when people say, oh yeah, I'm having an okay day. That's shit. That means that you're like, there's stuff getting blocked there, right? We should be having a fucking amazing day every single day, right? And I don't mean that we never experience bad things. 100% we do. But the thing is not to cling to them or not to resist them, okay? We experience it as it is in that moment and understand that it has nothing to do with us. Things are going to happen around us no matter what. The world's going to do its thing no matter what. We can't do anything about that, but we can do something about ourselves. And when we start to change ourselves and the way we feel about ourselves by going, you know what? I'm going to choose to be kind to me today. I'm going to choose to nurture myself. I'm going to choose to not people please and put that energy back into myself and look after my heart. I'm going to choose to speak my truth. And I'm going to choose to do the things that light me up. You then start to shine a little brighter. My head. The book, Bronnie Ware, The 5 Regrets of the Dying, she says something like this. We are all like a light bulb, right? We're born with this really bright light, right? And we're glowing and we're look at young kids. They run around everywhere. They heaps of energy. And then over time, people throw dirt at our light globe. What happened to me when I was 6? They throw muck at it, they throw muck at it, they throw more, and we start to dim our lights and we start to get really quiet. And then as we're growing up, we get told that, you know, little girls are seen and not heard and don't speak up unless it's nice. So we learn to people please, right? We have conditioning all around us that tells us we're not good enough as we are. We have to look a certain way. We have to act a certain way. Girls have to be proper and, you know, perfect, and boys have to be strong and not talk about things and man up. You know, she'll be right, mate. All this stuff gets conditioned into us after years and years and years. And we get to hear, we're like, oh, we're trapped. And we don't know how to speak up. And when we do speak up, someone will judge us. And that is the only reason we take that on board is because we are still judging ourselves, right? So when we judge others or when we compare, we are really comparing and judging ourselves, because the reaction of others is a mirror of ourselves. And it's hard. When we start to shine a little bit more, people aren't going to like it. We step into this light and we start to vibrate a little higher. We start to have a bit more energy and we start to feel really good. And sometimes people aren't there yet and they will also try to bring you down. But this is where it is so important for us to start to move towards our heart space, okay? So do the things that light you up. And if you've got teenage girls or teenage boys, show, not tell. Be a light for them. That's the best way that you can help them start to love and nurture their bodies. So look at the things that you do around the home, the way you look at food, the way you eat food, the way you talk and touch your own body, right? Be really, really mindful of the words you speak, because they are watching everything you do, whether it be a young child or a teenager. And remember that what you practice grows stronger. So the more you practice picking yourself up on the words you speak, and the more that you practice paying attention to the thoughts that come in, and they will, and you interrupt that thought, right? It's called awareness. You interrupt that thought, and in the process of interruption, what happens is you interrupt that synaptic connection that goes back to the familiar responses of the not enough or whatever it might be, and it pauses, and then you choose. Gabby Bernstein says you then choose to, you have the opportunity to choose again. And even in that moment of choosing again, it could be just to take a breath in and a breath out. And then you have a conscious moment there to do something positive with that. We all have that. None of us are exempt to that, no matter what our situation. We always have this moment. And this is the thing too. Doesn't matter what it has been, doesn't matter what your story has been. We've all got a story. We've all been through shit, and we're going through shit right now, right? It is fucking hard work. It is challenging on the mind. Don't push it away. Lean in and yield to what is uncomfortable, because it's in that space of feeling uncomfortable when we grow. This is another conversation, but if you need to work through a practice of leaning in, jump on Tara Brach, B-R-A-C-H. I've spoken about this many times. Her meditation of RAIN, R-A-I-N, and it's recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. Gives us the opportunity to go, oh, hey, I recognize that I'm speaking shitty to myself. Or, and this is a great one for teenagers too. Cool. Oh, I recognize that I'm putting my body down. I recognize that I'm looking in the mirror and I'm calling myself fat, or I'm calling myself ugly, whatever it might be. I recognize that. And then I allow it. I allow it to be there. Okay, you're going to sit on my shoulder here. I'm going to let you be. You then investigate why that's come up. Go back to the blockages, the samskaras. What was that old story? What's made you think that again? And that takes a bit of work and it takes time, so be patient with yourself. And then nurture. Do something that makes you feel good, because when you feel good, you lift your vibe and you start to bring in better energy, right? And you start to create that flow within the body, which will then start to radiate out of you, and you will then be able to share that to others as well. Oh, so I'm just going to finish off. I can't actually see any questions on here. I've got stupid, there's silly settings on here. I think I've got some issues with that, but I did, if you do have any questions, post them below. I just want to finish off with a little meditation, and all it is just sitting down. It's allowing ourselves to really get into our bodies and be really fucking grateful for what they are. Because too often where we get around in this vehicle, which is our bodies, and we never ever say thank you, right? We just get up and we do the thing, and we feel sluggish, and we feel like stuck, and we feel blah. Oh, bless. And we don't thank it. And as I said before, none of us know what's going to happen tomorrow, especially in these times. What if we woke up tomorrow and we didn't have an arm, right? It was just gone. I don't know if I can do that, but it was gone. I'm still here. I don't change. But if I'm attached to that arm and I lose it, then I'm going to create again a samskara, a blockage, right? It's not me. I'm in here. I am the soul that experiences this body. Again, you are not your thoughts. You are the soul that experiences the thoughts. All right, remember that. So just take a moment, it's been about 5 minutes or so, and you can always come back to this. So wherever you are, I want you to think about your heart just opening here. So when we open our hearts, what actually happens is we allow more chi or energy to flow, right? If we are feeling fearful, or if we're feeling jealous, or if we're comparing or judging or criticizing ourselves, or closing off our hearts, right? We are coming from a state of lack. So the more we open up our hearts, the more we allow love, compassion, and kindness to come in. So I invite you to take a big breath in and a big breath out. And I invite you to sit in this 5 minutes or so in a space where, if you're carrying any baggage with you, or if you feel heavy, or if you feel like there's a lot going on, I just invite you to put that to the side for a moment. So maybe visualize, like I think they say, like taking off the backpack of old feelings, thoughts, emotions, stuck stories, whatever it might be, just put it to the side. So with that backpack now off your back, take a breath in. Again, and breathe out. I want you to visualize the space around your heart, and just notice what it feels like to allow those shoulders to draw back and allow a little bit more light in. What does it feel like to invite in a sense of compassion and kindness to yourself? It doesn't have to be love. If it doesn't feel right to invite in love, don't invite it in. Invite something in that feels real to you. So bring in a sense of compassion and kindness, even if it's just for these 5 minutes. And I want you to really nurture that space around your heart. You visualize maybe yourself even giving yourself a little hug, you know, as a young girl or a young boy, or whatever, you know, whatever needs your attention here. But who is it that needs to be nurtured here? Again, bring your attention back to that space in your heart. And I want you to breathe in the words, thank you. And I want you to exhale any resistance to that. I want you to thank the lower part of your body, your feet, your knees, your thighs, your toes. And as you exhale, just send an amount of compassion and love down to those areas. Breathe into the space of your hips and say thank you for everything they do for us. As you exhale again, send compassion into that area. Breathe into the space of your belly, your internal organs, and say thank you. And exhale, again, feel really nurtured around that area. Breathe into the space of your heart and say thank you. Exhale, let that just radiate throughout your body. Breathing into the space of your throat, your shoulders, your chest, your arms, your fingers, your elbows, and say thank you for everything they've done today. And then lastly, breathing into the space of your jaw, your mouth, your nose, your eyes, your ears, your forehead, and your mind, and say thank you. And exhale, release any resistance to any of that. Now your whole body as a whole, maybe touch your hands on one part of your body that needs your attention, your love, wherever that may be. And just breathe in with that energy from the heart and say thank you. And breathe out, feel a sense of ease, of acceptance and allowing. Breathe in. Is it possible to lean into that acceptance of exactly where we're at right now? To not judge, to not compare, to not criticize, and to not blame or shame. To just be. To give ourselves a space to now nurture and look after ourselves from the inside out. Understanding that all of those thoughts come from the space in our heart. So the next time that we catch ourselves with a thought that doesn't serve us, with a thought that brings us down, I want you to come back to your heart space and ask the question, what is it I need to do for you today? How do I need to make you feel? Take a breath in and a breath out. And gently just open your eyes. So whether or not you've got kids, whether or not you don't, remember that everything you do has a reaction, has a response. The way you talk to yourself, as I said, the way you eat, the way you look at food, the things you say to yourself in the mirror, everything has a reaction. So the next time, all you need to do is when you say something or pick yourself up, when we talk down on ourselves or in a state of self-sabotage, or even if you have a child with an eating disorder and they're sort of really down in those thoughts, take a moment, pause, interrupt the pattern, and do something that feels kind to you. You don't have to do anything that's to do with loving ourselves, because you can't in that state. It's unnatural, it doesn't feel right, but we can choose to be kind. And that might simply be just taking a breath in, taking the dog outside for a walk, or going and doing something for a friend. So when we come into a space of gratitude and appreciation, right, we actually lift our vibe automatically, all right? So finding something to do for somebody else is so powerful, and it makes you feel good from the inside out. So I hope that helped. I'll let you guys go for your Friday night. Any questions, don't be afraid to ask, hit me up. I'm really getting stuck into my book now, What's Your Language? The structure's all done, and this stuff is just so important, important for all of us. And gaining an understanding of how our body and our mind works together. Our bodies will tell us all the time, you've got to listen. If we're, as I said, if we're tired and exhausted and stressed and always busy, or our skin's breaking out, or our hair's falling out, or we're bloated, that's our body telling us that something is going on and we need to nurture ourselves. And when we do that, we start to feel more love for ourselves in here and more compassion, and of course more energy, because we're flowing, we have better chi. Then the thoughts start to settle. So I wanted to finish with this little passage from Michael Singer as well. And it's about our hearts. And he says, the most important thing in life is your inner energy. If you're always tired and never enthused, then life is no fun. But if you're always inspired and filled with energy, chi, then every minute of every day is an exciting experience, right? Be that good or bad. It's just an experience. Learn to work with these things. Through meditation, through awareness and willful efforts, you can learn to keep your energy centers open, what we spoke about before. You do this by relaxing and releasing. You do this by not buying into the concept that there is anything worth closing your heart over, because there's not. We have a choice with that. We can either choose to hang on to it, choose to get jealous, choose to react, choose to be negative. It is all a choice. He says, remember, if you love life, and we all do, nothing is worth closing over. Nothing ever is worth closing your heart over. Michael Singer, Untethered Song. Thanks everyone. I hope you guys have an amazing Friday night. Any questions, please don't be afraid to ask and hit me up. I appreciate your time. And remember, choose to be kind to you, especially if you have kids. What you do will start to mirror onto them, and they will start to mirror that back to you. That's exactly how it works. Everyone and everything around us is a mirror of our reactions and our responses. So namaste everyone. Have a great night.